All right, we're live. I'm about a minute late. Um, there we go. Trying to upload my slides. So I'm super, you guys, I had the hardest time just trying to cut down on this so I'm not on here talking for like over an hour, because this is a really important concept that I don't feel is discussed nearly enough. So I'm going to give about a minute or so. When you hop on, go ahead, let me know that you're here. I'd love to know who's watching with me. If you end up watching on the replay, of course, type replay in the comments. If you are joining me live, go ahead and type both your name and where you're joining from, because sometimes like I just get Facebook user because I'm using the StreamYard app. So go ahead and type your name and where you're joining me from. I am streaming at you live from Central Illinois. It is nice and wet and dreary again, but we've got sunshine coming, right? Who is ready for some sunshine? Sunshine, warmth, it might be a little too hot from what I can hear, but I will take it over the weather we've had. You'll have to kind of excuse the mess of what is behind me. I wish, the only thing that I don't like about StreamYard is I can't like blur my background like I can with Zoom. At least I don't know how. But that would be nice. But this is our classroom. I homeschool my 3 kiddos, for those that are watching me for the first time. And so this is what we use is out here. So it is quite the mess, but that is okay. So you are joining me today because I am going to talk about enzymes and optimizing our health with the use of enzymes. Tell me in the comments before I go ahead and get started, who is joining me, whether it's live or on the replay, who currently uses a form of enzymes to help in your health. Let me know. I love to know kind of what is the who am I talking to? Who uses them? Who has heard of them? Who has no idea what I'm talking about and is joining because that's why. Because you're joining because you have no clue what I'm talking about. You want to know what I mean. So let me know, and we are going to go ahead and get started. Whoop! Gotta open my. Someone saying they use. Yep. Yep, the enrich, the enzymes, wonderful. And I am gonna, at the very end, I am gonna do, I'm gonna talk about a product that I personally use and recommend. And I'm also going to do a quick product comparison so you can kind of know like what to look for if you are, on the market shopping and what's out there, and kind of what I personally choose to avoid, because there are lots of options out there. So without further ado, gonna give it in a couple minutes, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So we are talking today about food, enzymes, and health. I love to do slides. My background is as a physical therapist. I used to do lots of presentations. I've taught at the university level, and I know that not everyone is an audio learner. Some people need that visual learning, so I try to combine both and do a little bit of each. You can totally just listen to me too, and that's fine, and you're still going to get a lot from it as well. But I do like to have those slides for those that are visual learners and want to read as I'm going along, for those that are watching at that time. So we are going to talk about food, enzymes, and health. I forgot to put my FDA disclaimer in here, but what I want you to know is that I do not claim to heal, cure, treat, or diagnose. I am simply here doing a summary of readings that I have done, of books, the personal research I have done on this topic. I'm giving you that information. I'm going to talk about a little bit about personal experience, and I'm going to do some product recommendation based on what's worked for me and my family. So you're going to get a little bit of all of that, but I am not here. I am not your doctor. My doctorate is in physical therapy, but I am not your doctor. I would love to be someday, maybe. Who knows? But I do, my passion is sharing this education with others so that you can best determine what you need to optimize your health and live a long and joyful and full life. So that is what we are going to talk about today. So books, what am I talking about today? So this is a wonderful, I forget, the complete book of enzyme therapy. I am scratching the surface on this book. It is unreal. What you can find in here. There is the whole second part of this book is all about certain conditions and the certain type of systemic enzyme therapy recommended that has been shown in the research to benefit those diseases. I could do an entire talk just on this. So we're going to scratch the surface using this book. This one, really amazing. He is basically like the one who brought enzyme recognition to the US, and still this book is one of the Bibles of enzyme therapy for practitioners that are using it. It is not an easy read. If you are not a science-based person, it is not an easy read. So I'm going to summarize it for you. There is, however, in the very back, which is basically what I'm going to bring to you too, the condensed summary and condensed summary. It's a very, very good book. One of the very first books I read, because, well, first book was the first one, then this one, because this one's in that one. So, and then I am going to get a little bit into pathology, and I just put that book up there so you know kind of where I'm pulling this from. This was a textbook used in my training as in my doctorate program, and I just think it gives a good basis of where I'm getting my information. So you know. Okay. So what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about enzymes and their function. We're going to talk about enzymes and digestion. We're going to talk about enzyme depleters. We're going to talk about nutrition tips to maximize enzymes. So throughout it, you're going to kind of hear me talk about different foods and things like that. And then we're going to talk about enzyme supplementation and why. So you know what we're doing. I'm going to make this bigger so that you can see this more. Okay, so the history. So no animal, plant, or human could exist without enzymes. They are integral to our function, to our livelihood, to everything we do. Now, I'm going to focus today a little bit more on digestive enzymes, but know that there are other enzymes within our body, okay? Historically, the best source, as always, if you've ever heard me talk, you know that I like to push food first. Food first. Get the nutrients, get everything you can from your food first, okay? Unfortunately, not only has our food changed in the way of how the nutritional value, the way it's grown, what's sprayed on it, where it comes from, all the things, how it's stored, all that, okay? But less than 10% of Americans actually eat the recommended servings. And 80% don't even eat vegetables or fruits that are rich in those colors, those carotenoids. That's like the color, the vibrancy of the fruit. They don't even eat like the rainbow. They don't eat the rainbow. And if you're not eating the rainbow, you're not actually getting the nutritional value from the fruits and vegetables. The amount and activity of enzymes, just like pretty much with everything else in our bodies, degrade with age. So how well the enzymes work, as well as how many enzymes you will find in our body, all are reduced as we age. And then you combine that with environmental toxins or toxic substances inside. If you saw me last week, my topic last week was detoxification. I talked about what goes on internally that is actually toxic and why our bodies need that detoxification process. So again, those toxins that I discussed last week will also have a negative impact on our enzyme function. So looking a little bit more at the history, how long have we known about enzymes? Well, maybe we didn't know it. Maybe back in the days of the Bible, we weren't actually sure what it was, but you can find a verse, 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 7, that says, and Isaiah said, bring a cake of figs and let them take and lay it on the boil that he may recover. What they didn't maybe understand at that time, but what was actually happening there was the figs have an enzyme called ficin. And when you rub that on the boil, that was what led to the healing of that skin disorder. So as far back as the Bible, we've been using enzymes for healing. In the Indians of Middle and South America, they used the leaves and the fruit of the papaya and the pineapple. Very high content of enzymes in those two types of food. And then in the Middle Ages, they used the juice from plants of the spurge family, Euphorbiaceae. I can't say that. And this was used topically for the treatments of boils, warts, and decubitus ulcers. So just a little bit of history on where they've come from and how long they've been used. Now let's get to modern day enzyme therapy. What do we use today? Where did it come from? Okay. So Dr. John Beard is one of the first scientists, first physicians that looked at the benefit of enzymes, and he specifically looked at it in how it can treat and cure cancer. So he's got a book called Enzyme Treatment of Cancer. There's also a Japanese researcher that was looking at the use of microbial enzymes for the treatment of digestive disorders. We're going to dig deeper into that. Okay, I'm getting it's been freezing out here, and now more. Okay. And then we've got Dr. Max Wolf, late 1800s, early 1900s, father of systemic enzyme therapy. So that is a little bit more of where that book comes from, where it talks about how enzymes can be used throughout the body to treat systemic illnesses. And in 1976, him along with another physician formed the Medical Enzyme Research Institute. And then we've got his book is known as the Bible for those advocating the use of plant-derived enzymes. Dr. Edward Howell, Enzyme Nutrition. He was trained as an osteopath, physical therapist, and chiropractor. He's got kind of a man after my own heart, and having that background, I love that. One of the actually first reasons why I wanted to read his book. I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. But he believed that the body has the ability to produce enzymes, and by doing so, promotes rapid growth and prevents illness, but that those internal stores are depleted. And as they are depleted, that's what leads to our chronic illnesses. So I'm talking about enzymes. What are they? Okay. Those that use it, those that use the enzymes, do you know what they actually are? Do you know what they do? See, and I know you can read the slide right now, but that's just, did you know before you started using them, or did you start using them because someone told you it was good for you to use them? So that's something to answer in the comments. I love to see kind of where everyone's at and what kind of, what the audience looks like. Okay. So these are protein substances found in every cell, plant, animal, human body, everywhere. They act as catalysts, so they're going to cause a chemical change. They themselves are not affected, though. So they are integral in our metabolism, turning our food and our fuel into what it needs to do within the body. And they are also food potentiators, exactly what I just said. Okay. When levels decrease and activity levels fall, we get illness. And they are named for the substance or the substrate that they work on to break down. So when you're looking at this, you've got the substrate on the left. That's what it's going to break down. That combines with the enzyme, and then they work together. It breaks it down, and it releases the nutrient value from it. Okay. We started using them. I'm going to show this. We started using them because of my husband's digestive disorder. Amazing. We're going to talk more about that for sure as we move along. That's what I personally started using it for too, was digestion, as well as in my 3-year-old. We needed some digestive help pronto. Okay, so how do you know if you need more enzymes? Well, a sign of enzyme deficiency is, number one, disturbed digestion. So that's why we're going to focus on digestion today. Another one is increased free radical formation. A little bit more, a little harder to measure, but free radicals, when they are prevalent in the body, usually are presenting as illness because they're breaking down good cells because they're bad. They're bad in the body. They're going to do bad things. And then it's going to, and this has led to our overall decrease as a society in our life expectancy. We should be able to live to like 120, but the average life expectancy right now is 72. And Dr. Howell and many other researchers in the enzyme world would say that a lot of that has to do with the severe reduction in enzymes prevalent in our diets. So I'm talking about I'm going to do a quick little stint on the pancreas, because the pancreas is the primary source of where, I'm going to do this, of where our body produces our enzymes. Okay, so we've got an endocrine component of our pancreas, and that's where many people are familiar with that part in regards to diabetes. Okay, and then we've got exocrine, which is the bulk of the organ. Hey, type your name in when you're popping on and say hi, so I know who you are. I'm getting a lot of Facebook users. And I don't know who you are. But the exocrine is the bulk of the organ, major source of enzymes essential for digestion. So that's the main part that we're going to focus on today. And then I get into like where it all is in the pancreas for those that are science-based as well. If you want to know that, there it is. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it is important to know that when our endogenous enzymes are created, they are actually created in the inactive form until they get to the stomach. So once they are sent through the process, that is when they are activated. And if they were activated too early, it would not do us justice. We wouldn't have the benefit from them that we need. Okay, so digestion is what makes your body work. I've talked about that. It converts fuel to usable form. I have a video, so if you're looking for more in-depth information on digestion and our microbiome and all the things that come from the central piece of how your gut is functioning, I'm going to refer you back to some other videos, because otherwise I'd be on here forever. But digestion is key. Okay, what's going on in your gut is key to the rest of your health. So if your gut or your digestion kind of hand in hand, okay, there's other functions of our gut, but the primary function is digestion. If those aren't working well, you're going to see symptoms such as fatigue, premature aging, arthritis, poor skin and hair, toxicity, allergies, cancer, So much mental health disorders stems from poor digestion. So that is why when people come to me and are asking for suggestions on where they need to start when it comes to, I want to get healthier, I want to do something for my health, I have XYZ symptoms, almost every symptom of illness has a gut source. So the number one thing that I recommend focusing on first is gut health. Now, there are some people who you're going to need a little bit more, right? You want to feel benefits right away. You should feel benefits right away when you're targeting gut health. But if it's more fatigue, or if it's more, then you can use other things to encourage and increase, address those symptoms. But symptom management is not typically root cause. So I like to try and get to root cause. And the purpose for that is, for over 2.5 years, I was suffering, well, most of my life, if we go into all my chronic illnesses, but specifically what I've gone through more acutely, no one was getting at the root cause. And instead, I was on over 10 different medications. I was being sent from specialist to specialist, from here to there, and it was all addressing symptoms. It wasn't getting at root cause. So if you really want to address the symptom, you got to figure out where it's coming from first. And I truly believe a majority of our illness, along with, supported by this research, is coming from gut health. Okay, that was my soapbox. Sorry about that. So if foods don't break down and then the foods get to our intestines, they actually become a breeding ground for bacteria. And as I talked about last week in detoxification, if those foods are getting to your intestines undigested, or even only partially digested, your body's still going to do something with it. And it's actually going to start to break it down into toxic substances inside your body. So those are those endogenous toxins that I referred to last week. And then your detoxification system is going to be overloaded, and you're going to have an issue, and that's going to get clogged. So your digestion and your detox are two separate systems, but very much linked, very much linked. It's good to know that cooked foods pass through slower than raw foods. Different foods depend on very specific enzymes. I talked a little bit about this in the beginning. I'll talk more about this as we go. There are certain enzymes for each type of food, each category. Your bodies actually require more than 20 enzymes from 3 main groups: proteases, amylases, and lipases. We'll talk more about that. These are naturally manufactured inside our body: the stomach, the pancreas, the small intestine. They're found in fruits, vegetables, and grains. But if we are overtaxing our system, and I'll talk about that, we are going to deplete our endogenous stores, and we have to be giving ourselves something externally to ingest in order to optimize the entire system. Okay, so digestion. Let's just talk that for a second, okay? So digestion actually starts in the mouth. Who knew that? Raise your hand. Digestion starts in the mouth. I did a few weeks ago, did an entire thing on oral health and what you need to be looking at from an oral health standpoint. I did a review of some of the oral health care products that are out there on the market, what I recommend staying away from, why oral health is so important. Here's why. The digestion process starts in the mouth, anywhere. Okay, we secrete saliva. That gives it water. Water is necessary for the enzymes to function. But then also, you're chewing. Do you know, I know there's only a few people on, but live, but do you know how many times you're supposed to chew each bite of food? Drop it in the comments if you've got a guess. How many times are you supposed to chew each bite of food? Let me see if I get a guess. And then if you have food, take a bite and tell me how many times you chew it. Okay, I'm gonna actually come back to that. 27. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that too. So someone, Jen said 20 to 30. So I'm gonna give that a little bit, and I'll tell you at the end how many times you're actually supposed to chew every single bite. And it's important that you're chewing on both sides. So they did a study in patients that had a stroke who were flaccid or had reduced muscle tone on one side. And they actually found inhibited digestion because they were only chewing on one side. So it is important that you're chewing on both sides. So we go from the mouth into the stomach. The stomach is lined with glands that are supplying hormones and hydrochloric acid and enzymes, all important in the function of digestion. Then we go into the small intestine. So it comes down here. I don't think I have a pointer. Okay. It goes into the small intestine. The small intestine is actually the greatest amount of digestion. So a lot of people think it's happening in the stomach. It's actually happening in the small intestine, and where most of the nutrients are then absorbed. So enzymes start in the mouth. I'm going to put my hands over here because I'm blocked on the other side. Enzymes start in the mouth, start breaking down the food. Then it gets into the stomach, continued breakdown of food. Then it gets to the small intestine. This is where the highest amount of our nutrients are then absorbed. So we really want to optimize that process so that we're getting the nutrient value from our food that we need. Within this area is when bile from the liver and the pancreas are added to it in order to support the full digestion. At any point between the stomach and the small intestine, there might be signals sent out to the pancreas, the gallbladder, and the liver asking for assistance. Think about that. Think about the intricacy of that process. If you know people that have pancreas disorders, if you know people that have had their gallbladders removed, if you know people who have had liver dysfunction, all of that is going to impact overall digestion and the body's ability to produce enzymes and then function in all of these ways. Okay. So then from the small intestine, we get into the large intestine. This is the end point. So this is where enzymes that act on whatever is left are there, and then they discard it into either the water. They either absorb the water or they discard it into feces. I don't know why I forgot that part. But okay. But they also will, if there are, food residue left, this is another area where bacteria might start to grow. And if your food hasn't broken down completely, and then you can have those endogenous toxins that are released. So, this book, so much. I am going to kind of speed through this because I could spend like a lot of time on this, but I think a couple of key components. Okay. We know it's natural. It's everywhere. It's in every living thing. We find enzymes. Unlike vitamins, enzymes are susceptible to heat. So that is why when we heat our food, when we cook our food, when we process our food, and we're going to talk about the depleters of enzymes, it kills off the enzymes. Again, another reason why most of our food does not provide us with that exogenous supply of enzymes that we need, and why we may need supplementation, why we actually would benefit from supplementation because of all of that. Now, if you're eating whole 100% raw food diet, amazing. However, there is still some research to support that by supplementing with an external enzyme source, you will reduce the body's need to secrete enzymes at a certain rate and thus preserve the functionality of your enzyme system for a longer period of time. So you combine a raw food diet with enzyme supplementation, and you're going to be, again, optimal health for sure. Okay. Okay. Enzymes are poured. We talked about where they come from. So oral administration, this is what I was getting at. Oral administration of the enzyme extracts decreases the strain on the internal system. So it'll help the digestion perform more efficiently. And even when you have normal levels of internal enzymes, okay, by supplementing with an oral dosage, it will still help. It still helps. And that's what Dr. Howell's research showed. Foods that have high calorie values have far more enzymes in their raw state. So meat and potatoes, if you eat those raw, they're higher enzyme value than traditionally eaten raw food, such as salads and vegetables. But overall, even though the enzyme levels may be smaller in traditional raw food, fruits and vegetables, things like that, the sum total over time exceeds the enzyme value of what you would get if you weren't eating those. So it's still extremely beneficial to the body, even if it's small amounts, because if you do that consistently over a number of years, you're going to benefit greatly. I just realized that I forgot to tell you how many times you're supposed to chew. You are supposed to chew every single bite 50 times. 50. 50. So I want you to think about that. One of the biggest detriments in society today is that we don't take enough time to eat our food. We are not mindful of what we are doing as we are eating. We are distracted by our phones or by your children or TV or something. And by focusing on what you are eating and how you are eating it can have a significant impact on the nutritional value of the food itself. If no enzyme replacements are ever taken, the normal daily excretion of enzymes will deplete much earlier, and you're going to have earlier death and earlier dementia can even result from enzyme depletion. We talked about being secreted from specific glands. I'm not going to keep going in there. They did experiments on animals to determine the degenerative diseases that resulted from it. Even differences in disease and longevity between cooking tribes. So if you took the American Indian versus the Eskimo, the Eskimos were significantly more healthy than the American Indian. And then you also take a look at primitive Eskimo versus modernized. Again, new diseases emerging in the modernized Eskimo that weren't there in the primitive because of the way of their eating and their cooking and all that. This I found super interesting. The universal craving for salt, it comes from a heat-treated diet, and it's because we need increased enzymes, and salt stimulates the enzyme production. So that craving for salt can be a sign of enzyme deficiency. Super interesting. Okay, what happens with altered enzyme function? So the National Cancer Institute actually states that at least 35% of all cancer cases are directly related to diet. Stress will reduce the secretion of digestive juices, and then down the line, you're going to see all of that impacted in what is happening inside your gut. Okay, I'm going to bring this bigger. So we talked about earlier that the pancreas is the primary source of the secretion of our digestive enzymes. If there are disorders of the pancreas, and these are just a few, polycystic disease, acute pancreatitis, chronic, anyone with anything like this absolutely 100% without a doubt needs enzyme supplementation. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Malabsorptive diarrhea. If you are not absorbing your nutrients and you are having diarrhea because of that, you need enzymes. Anyone else lactose intolerant, or anyone else ever use the lactase enzyme pills that you can find at like CVS, Walgreens, things like that? I took those for years. I was lactose intolerant basically my entire life. Since the age of 5, I can remember having to modify what I was eating because of that. Usually, I had packets of those. I would take 3, 4, 5, as many as I needed so I could enjoy a bowl of ice cream, pizza, anything. What I can tell you is, since utilizing enzymes in place of that, which is the quality of that is not enough. I drink milk. I eat ice cream. I eat pizza with my kids. It has changed everything that I can tolerate. Okay. So how do you know, or what is it that we're doing these days to deplete our enzymes? Well, let me tell you, everything. Okay. Everything. Cooking, milling and refining, even food preservation methods. So drying, canning, freezing, irradiation can deplete the enzyme value of those foods. Food additives, that's kind of a no-brainer. Most of them are toxic anyway, so just avoid them. I've got a video on looking at your labels. Just read your labels. But then it's also good to know about our enzyme helpers. So this is really interesting. There have been studies on, the focus on vitamins and minerals and how important those are, and how you should be taking a multivitamin, how you need mineral supplementation and all those things. You can have normal vitamin and mineral levels, but if you are enzyme deficient, you will still have symptoms and signs of disease. So you absolutely need optimal enzyme help or optimal vitamins and minerals. But if you also do not have optimal enzyme levels, you will have signs of symptoms and disease. They need each other. Enzymes need the vitamins and minerals to function, and vitamins and minerals are necessary to help us extract and utilize all the nutrition coming from what we put on our bodies. These are just some of them. This isn't even an exhaustive list, but this is some of them. All right. The other thing I want to quickly touch on, because again, I think I could do like a whole thing just on this, but probiotics, and I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see this. Who here takes a probiotic supplement? Let me know in the comments. Do you take either a pre and probiotic, a probiotic by itself? Do you eat prebiotic foods? Do you know what I'm talking about when I say prebiotic? Give me a quick couple comments about that. All right. So probiotics are beneficial microorganisms that limit the proliferation of disease-causing microorganisms. And they do that by competing with the bad. The good defeats the bad in the GI tract, okay? Supplementation may be necessary because stress from disease, infection, injury, toxins, pollution, all of the things, our world, okay, will reduce the good bacteria. All those things will reduce good bacteria. So if you are someone who's had any sort of disease, any kind of infection, injury to anywhere among the body, exposure to toxins in any way whatsoever, exposures to pollution in any way whatsoever, you may need a probiotic supplementation because your gut already is depleted. Okay. Probiotics, though, are actually necessary for some very important things: the manufacturing of B vitamins, the production of lactase, the recycling of our female hormone estrogen, and the production of antibacterial substances that then kill disease-causing bacteria. So if we are out of balance in our probiotics, it is going to lead to a whole other host of problems. Also, the good bacteria is necessary. Remember when I talked about if that food is getting stuck, whether it's in the small intestine or in the large intestine, if that food is not getting digested properly, you at least need probiotics to then help ward off the bad bacteria that's going to form because there's food residue in your body. So that they work synergistically. They work together. You need them both. Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to get into the product. So any questions? Diane, take both. Yeah, pre and probiotics. And prebiotics is basically, guys, prebiotics is the food or the food that helps your body create and sustain the good bacteria, the probiotics. Okay, so you do need both. You do need to be ingesting the prebiotics to support the probiotics. And if you're under any kind of stress in any way whatsoever, like I just said, you're probably going to need a probiotic supplementation. Higher doses during acute stress, lower doses if it's just kind of, baseline or depending on your stress level, things like that. Okay, I'm going to specifically get into talking about the product that I personally use and recommend. And what I want to point out a few things here. Is there actually like a pointer? Hotkeys, let's guess. No. Okay. I was kind of hoping I could find a pointer, but there's not. So I want you to start looking at the top. We talked about the minerals, right? We talked about the minerals, and they are needed for enzymes to function properly. Specifically, zinc, copper, and manganese are three major ones. Okay. What I want you to notice here is that these are glyconated, chelated minerals. What that means, chelated, if you watched my detox video, chelated is claw-like. They attach, there's an amino acid attached to these minerals, and that is going to help your body recognize them, break down the amino acid, get to the good mineral, utilize the mineral wherever it's necessary. Okay. Then you see here 675 milligrams of a proprietary enzyme blend. This encapsulates all three major categories of enzymes. We talked about the proteases, the lipases, and the amylases. Within those, there's different subsets. This has all of them, all enzymes from all three categories to help you break down every source of food. Okay. When it says gluten and protein, it means it has the enzyme to break down the gluten and protein. Going back to how enzymes function, the gluten is the substrate, The enzyme breaks it down. Okay. Then we've got a prebiotic and a food blend, great to help to feed that good bacteria, and the probiotic, which I love. I love that there's pre and probiotics combined with the minerals and the enzymes, because all of it is necessary for the enzymes to function and for your gut and everything to function ideally. So this is a great product because of its intentional creation and mixture of everything within it. The other thing I want you to note, and because I'm going to show you some others, is that the other ingredient section is very minimal. You've got a vegetable capsule, you've got a whole rice, a gum fiber, and a rice extract. That is necessary because it's a powder. It's a powder in a capsule, but that's it. There's 4. I always say you want less than 5 in the other ingredients. It's great. It's perfect. It fits all of my criteria. Okay. So if you want more information on this particular enzyme product, go ahead and type enzyme in the comments and I will get you this information. This is just an amazing product that is very intentionally created and is one of the best that I have seen. The other thing I want to point out is I just want to point out some things that I would avoid when coming to enzyme products. I don't want to, I'm not going to bash any other companies or products or anything like that. So you do things, see some things blacked out there. But the main thing here is in the other ingredients. So you're going to see things like maltodextrin, microcrystalline cellulose, things that I personally prefer to avoid. They are not toxic in and of themselves, but with increased exposure over time can be toxic inside the body. This one too, one of the things that kind of threw me off was I don't know what all the acronyms mean. The HUT, USP, and so they're all in different measurements. So you're not, that's hard to understand where all that is coming from. That's the one on the left. The one on the right is actually very good, except that the enzyme blend is a little bit on the lower end. They're more focused on like the chicory root and things like that. Not bad. Okay, great as far as it's still natural sources. Also has a probiotic a probiotic blend in there. Wonderful. It does have sugar, but it's less than 1 gram. So in the grand scheme of things, the sugar, not a high value, but again, if you're watching your sugar, something to look at. And otherwise a great product. This one in particular is a pre and probiotic product. Up here in the top, the ingredients, great. But in the other ingredient section, you're going to see dyes, and automatically that's a no-no for me. So just some things that I personally choose to avoid. Last thing I want to do is I'm going to run through this real quick, but the one that I recommend, the one that I talked about that has the pre and the probiotic and the chelated minerals, all of that, those are all plant-sourced enzymes. And so I just want to go through where can you find these and what types of foods should you be looking at. Now, again, we talked about, though, once you cook it, the enzyme value is significantly depleted. So if you are looking for foods to help to promote the enzyme activity inside the body, you're going to be looking at raw. You need raw foods. So amylase is going to break down your carbs. You can find this in sweet potato, corn, barley, reishi, mushrooms, bananas, things, raw honey, milk, great sources. You've got cellulase, which breaks down cellulose. It's the fiber of the coating of many fruits and vegetables. This is mainly a microbial source. So either microbial or plant is where the one that I talked about is sourced from. You can find this in avocado, peas, oat sprouts, and reishi mushrooms. You've got invertase. Again, this is a carb enzyme, a carbohydrate enzyme used to aid in digestion. Microbial in nature, cucumbers, green plants, potatoes, and sugarcane. Lipase is going to break down lipids, so it helps to improve fat utilization. It also digestion, but it also decreases your fat level in stool. So if you've ever looked at your poop and you can tell that it's kind of fatty, a lipase enzyme is going to be beneficial for you. So something to think about. Okay. So this is either animal sources or microbial sources, avocado, wheat germ, coconuts, flax seeds, any germinating type of plant usually has a large amount of lipase. Maltase is a carbohydrate enzyme used to aid digestion, usually found in plant tissue that also has amylase. So you're going to find the two together a lot. So lots of the same that we talked about with the amylase enzyme. Proteases break down proteins, but what's important to understand is that proteolytic enzymes, proteases, not only do they break down proteins, they fight inflammation and they fight acute and chronic conditions because of their inflammatory properties. So pineapple, papaya, figs, If you are someone that has an acute or chronic inflammatory type condition, you may also benefit from a additional proteolytic enzyme that's going to double in a regular enzyme blend in order to fight off all of the causes of what proteins do when they are stagnant in the body. And then we've got Seropeptidase, which is another protease. It's a type of protease or proteolytic. It breaks down proteins. This has also anti-swelling activity, fights inflammation, stimulates the immune system, and facilitates effect in antibiotic treatments of infections. And this is purely microbial. So that is my presentation on enzyme therapy and how it can optimize health. If you have any questions, I'm going to stay on here for about a minute. I'd love to answer any questions you might have. If you end up watching on the replay, please go ahead and type questions in. I'd love to come back and answer questions for you. If you need recommendations on products or where to find products like this, the one that I use is with the company Trinot. It's called Enrich. If you'd like more information on that one, I'm happy to share that with you. I think that's everything. Yeah. I think that's everything. So I'll give it like 30 seconds, see if anyone's got any questions. And if not, thank you so much for hopping on. I hope that we all get some sunshine in our lives this weekend. All right. I don't see any questions coming in. So everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for those that tune in on the replay, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.